ఏర్రా ఇల్లంతా ఎడిపోయారు. ఏదరా చెప్పుడి బగర్. పోస్ట్ వచ్చాడు కదరా. వచ్చాడుగా. పోస్ట్ వస్తాడులే. పోస్ట్ అంటే అట్లాగా. ఇందాక ఒక జోక్ జరిగింది. స్మాల్ జోక్. వెళ్తే ఒక ఇచ్చేయండి చెప్తా. నవ్వుకుంటే వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు. పిలిచిన పోద్దు నువ్వు పోతా చెప్పి వెళ్ళేటప్పుడు నవ్వుకుంటే వెళ్ళిపో. తయారయ్యారు జనాలు అసలు. Wait, what are the topics pending in microservices? Two topics pending. I will tell you one, you write one. You finish one. How many topics are pending in microservices? Two topics, guys. And Saturday will be the last class for microservices. Saturday will be the last class. Yeah, Saturday is last class for the microservices. You can take it to what? Oh, Saturday is the last class. Today is what, Thursday, right? Today I'll start the config server, and by tomorrow we'll go for the Redis server. And Saturday morning you will think about something. Got it right? That's it. You see, guys, we go for the config server today. We'll start with config server. Fine. Coming to the config server, I'll take Redis server. Also, I will take no problem. The source servers I will take, and I'll finish the work. Topic is what? Config server. Config server is mainly for centralized configuration management. Centralized what? Configuration management. Centralized configuration management means up to now you have the application or property file in microservice. Assume that we have 100 microservices. Assume 10 microservices we have. Every microservice contains application or property file. Every microservice contains application or property file. Then what happened here? Tomorrow, if any modifications required, you open the property file. Once if you open the property file, you do the modifications, guys. Even for the small change in the property file, then what happened here? Entire application will be what? Reloaded. The entire application will be reloaded. So the entire application will be redeployed. The entire application should be what? Redeployed. An entire application is redeployed and restarted. Redeployment means what? Existing application is undeployed and new application is what? Deployed. Even for the small change in the property file, small change in the configuration, then what happened here? Old application will be what? Deployed, undeployed. See, redeployed. Application redeployed means what? What is the meaning of redeployment? Existing version is what? Undeployed. New version is what? Redeployed. That is called redeployment of the what? Every small modification property file, guys, small configuration change, then you can go for what? Application is redeployed. That's a problem one. And problem two is the problem two is you have the 10 microservices. Assume that some of the microservices, Eureka details are common details, right? Eureka is a common details or different details are common details. Eureka is common details, config server details are common details, admin server details are common details, Jenkins server details are what? Common details. If the common details are there, don't place every details in what? Every specific property file, guys. Don't place in what? Specific property file. You don't place everything in the separate property file because the configurations are duplication, right? 100 microservice means what? Eureka details are 100 times you are placing. How many times you are? 100 times. That is good or not good? Not good. See, the problem number one, small modification, we need to redeploy the entire application. A very small configuration change, again, redeployment is happen every time. That's leads to the too much reloading, redeployments and all. And second problem is for every microservice, you have the common details. Every time you don't paste the same details in what? One microservice, multiple microservices. Multiple microservices don't place the same details, guys. So if 4 microservices details are Eureka details are common, configuration details are common, admin server details are common, Jenkins server details are what? Common. Then you need to don't place all the details in what? Application or property file, guys. That's the second problem. Then what second problem. And the third problem is in real time what happened, we have some environments and profiles in real time. What we have in real time, guys? Profiles in time. What the profiles environment, some people are calling as environment, some people are calling as profiles. What the profiles test profile is there, dev profile is there, prod profile is there. Tested environment, dev environment, production environment. So first one development environment, guys. Next one is a testing environment. Third one is what? A production environment. How many profiles? 3 profiles. How many environments means 3 environments. 3 environments are 3 profiles. 3 environments what are 3 environments? Test environment. First development environment, next one is what? Testing environment, third one is what? Production environment. See guys, in real time, every service contains the three different property files. One is a dev environment property file, one is a test environment, one is what? Prod environment property file. Sir, why these three different files are? See guys, generally for the development stage, they are using H2 database for the testing purpose. But in the testing times, they are using another database details. Production time, we have the real database. And the development time, I'm using some X server in my company. But production environment, I use AWS servers. It means what in production environment, I need to place the AWS details into my property file. In development environment means what? I need to place my local server secrets. Initially, I don't have the AWS deployments. First, I need to test my application in what? Local servers. Local server means what? A server exists in my company. I need to test the details in what? My servers. Test the details in what? My servers. But production environment, what? My servers are, my details are, production details are. Production details, like AWS servers. That's what is environment to environment, like testing servers, testing databases. So this all will be what? Same or changed? Change. The properties are changed, guys. Properties are what? Changed. How many environments total we have? Three environments. One is the dev, one is the tester, one is the prod. We sort out like total three problems. The problem number one, for every modification, the file is redeployed. Our server is what? Microservice is what? Redeployed. Second problem is what? What is second problem? Huh? Application of property file. The details are duplicated from multiple microservices. The same configuration can be placed in what? Multiple services. Configuration duplication. Configuration redundancy. Configuration redundancy. Configuration duplication, and some people are saying configuration redundancy, something like that. And the third one is what we say. And the different environments we are using what? Different details. Different environments we are changing the servers and we are changing what? Database. Test environment I'm using X database. Production environment Y database. Development environment another database. You don't think like development H2 database, testing H2 database, production what? H2 database is not like that, right? Sir, no, yeah. We are testing application in what? Local servers, but we are applying application in what? AWS servers. That's what the real environment. We have the three stages total here. One is what? Development stage, second one is what? So three stages, like there's a profiles, guys, dev profiles. If you start the server, guys, starting you get the no profile is active, like that you are getting a message because of what? There is no profile as of now added. By default, local profile is set. That is called dev profile. Dev profile, test profile, and what? The prod profile. Got it up. See, when I run the application, guys, I tell to the Jenkins saying that you take the test profile environment file. Then it will take automatically testing environmental file, otherwise the development environment file or what? Production environment files. So got it. That is like config server, guys. What the advantage of the config server? Config server will maintain that, like not config server, guys. You maintain your details in like GitHub. You maintain the details in what? GitHub. Once if you maintain the details in the GitHub, you maintain details in what? GitHub. In GitHub, you place the the details which is like common for what we can say one microservice, all microservices are all microservices. You put into what? GitHub. GitHub then put aside. Where you have to place? GitHub. You place the details in the centralized configurations in the GitHub. If tomorrow if any modifications required, just open the GitHub and do the modifications. Do what? Modifications. Sir, GitHub modifications, if I done, my project is reloaded or not reloaded. So not reloaded, guys. You change the values in what? GitHub. You change the values in where? GitHub. There is a configuration details in application of property file, GitHub. Everything is there in GitHub. Everything is there in what? GitHub. Like your configuration details. Maintain the centralized configuration. Centralized configuration means what? Is configuration details are specific to one microservice, all microservices are. Then centralized configurations are you can keep the all centralized configuration in the GitHub. If you need modification tomorrow, we don't need to touch the project. We don't need to touch the project, just open the GitHub and do the modifications. Do the modifications. So if I do the modifications in the GitHub, where is the configurations now? In the property file or in the GitHub? GitHub. Yeah, in the GitHub you have the property file, In the GitHub you have what? Details. Tomorrow if any modifications in the configuration, where we will modify? In the In the microservice side, the GitHub. GitHub. Whatever. Hey, you laptop, that is the laptop side, book also side, because you are sleeping. Please take care. Keep all outside. That now you can start. Now you can start. No, no, no. Laptop పట్టుకునేది పోతున్నట్టు చిన్న బేబీని పట్టుకునేది cool. You are feeling like no. Generally, my sister kid morning she will not sleep. Kid will not sleep. My sister will wake up. My sister said, then the kid will get irritation. He will sleep. That is that is what? Himalaya reports. Configurations. Up to now, configurations if you are dangerous. Too dangerous. Because once you have the configurations, you will go to different hostels. Bhushan, you will go to what? Different hostels, then problem. That's what you give the configuration to GitHub. One place. Even you go to what? Multiple places. Here's what? I will take care. Tomorrow, if any modifications you need to modify in what? Property file at GitHub. GitHub, centralized configuration management. GitHub will do what? Centralized configuration management. Where is your configuration details? GitHub. Tomorrow, if any modifications, do modifications in what? GitHub. GitHub contains one property file and three different property files are. Or three different environment property file, text environment property file. What environment you want, you can load that property file. But by default, GitHub contains how many properties? Three. Here we have the three property file. And you load like you want to load the dev profile. Okay, execute the dev profile environment. If you want test profile, execute the test profile. Prod profile, prod profile. Prod means what? Production. What profile you want like that? So tomorrow if any modifications are there in the GitHub, how the microservices are reflected automatically. See, you have the activators, right? Activator contains one endpoint. Activator slash refresh. Activator slash what? Refresh. So after doing the modification, just you can call activator slash refresh automatically without reloading your project. Modifications reflected your project. That will take care by what? Activator slash refresh. I think that activator slash refresh. If tomorrow, if any modifications required, tomorrow what? Yeah, this one guys. Activator slash what? Any change in configuration, guys. No service restart needed. Activator slash refresh what? We will reload the changes at a time. You got it right? What the advantage of Spring Cloud Config Server, guys? Centralized configuration management. Centralized means what? One place. The Spring Cloud Config Server provides a centralized configuration what? Management solution for microservices. Using what? GitHub. Using what? GitHub. It is not good. It is called what? GitHub. If any change, dynamic updates, guys. If any change in the configuration file, no service restart required. What? Yeah, centralized configuration, guys. The configuration details are placed in the centralized place. That is called what? GitHub. See, guys, config server will not maintain the data. See, config server is a mediator between the GitHub and the microservices. You ask like whom? Config server. Right, yeah. You ask whom? There is the configuration details. You ask GitHub or config server. Config server asks what? You have to get the details. You config server just like broker between what? Like mediator between what? It's a mediator between the where is the details? Tomorrow if you do modification where? Then what the config server will do? Config server will act as a yes. Tell me, config server will act as what? A mediator between. That is called centralized configuration management. Centralized configuration management. Centralized configuration means it will maintain the centralized configurations using GitHub, guys. Number one. Dynamic updates means if any modifications tomorrow you change in what? GitHub. And services will be restarted, just refresh. Refresh. Activator slash refresh modification. And third one is what? Profile management. How many managers you can profile here? Dev profile, test profile, and what? Prod profile. What the config server will do? Config server will maintain the data, na what? Config server, what it will do? Huh? Config server, what it will do? Maintain the data, na? What management? Centralized configuration management. Sure. This is not much thing. Yeah. So no configuration with you, but you guys are a bit dangerous because you take the configuration. You are sleeping with what application what. Hadappa already started from long back. He is ah నువ్వు లెగిసినా కనపడలేరా? After now, after now, configuration details what with you, but with you very dangerous. You keep what? With you means there is no profiles. Different profiles are not there. You have only single profile, single property file. No profiles at all. With you means if any modifications required, then what happened here? You need to redeploy your project. With you means what? With you, that's it. You got like with you means what? The problems. With you means what? Beside your other home also what? Problem. Because both are having same configuration details, right? That's what we will go for what? Centralized configuration. See guys, how to maintain the configuration details in microservices? Each microservice maintain what? Its own configuration details and application or property file. When you change any property, guys, we need to redeploy the entire microservice. Then only modifications are what? What the problem with application of property file? Application of property file in what? Each microservice. Tell me guys, every microservice has what? Its own application of property file. Locally, if any change in configuration require restarting and redeploying the services, both points are same points, leave it there. Centralized configuration management, you can go with the dynamic updates and all. Guys, how do you store the profile specific configurations in the GitHub? Okay, so finally, you need to maintain the configurations with you in GitHub. Yeah. Then microservice can connect with the GitHub. Microservice directly connect to GitHub. No. What did you do? You connect with the config server connect with what? Exactly. Config server is act as a mediator between the host two guys. You open that, project guys. You write one more project like config server. Config server project required. How many projects are there in workspace as of now? Admin server project is there. Admin server. Eureka server project is there. API gateway project is there. And what? Conversion service project is there. Exchange service project is there. Now I'm going to create one more project, sixth project, guys. That is what? Config server project required. Or project required config project. Config server you can create, guys. Then if I create the Eureka server, then you becomes what? Eureka clients. Admin server means you becomes what? Config server means you becomes what? Then you becomes a config clients. Becomes what? Config clients. That's what guys, you please go for the property like so in the GitHub guys, you go for the create the GitHub repository. Already you have the repository in the GitHub. And you create the three property file, application dev property file, application what, test property file, application what, pod property file. That is the standard we need to follow guys. Application what property file guys here? Dev. Second one is a tester, one is a prod. The steps allows you Spring Cloud config server to fetch the correct configuration based on what? Active profile of what? Microservice. Yes, you please create the microservice first. How many dependencies we need to add here? One is the web, one is the activator, one is the config server. Activator up to you guys because that is only for what? Oh, activator required because tomorrow if any modifications, what we need to do? We need to reload or just refresh. Yes. Direct refresh, activator slash refresh. Activator slash refresh. If you activate the activator dot what refresh. Hey, you create a new project, guys. Go for the file menu, click on the new and create the Spring Starter project. And here we have the project name. We can give the project name. And here we are going with what? Project name. Yeah, for the project name, guys, we are going with the config server. You can go with what? Config server. Config server. Config server. You can go with what? Config server. The config server contains what? Maven project and what version and what package and what. This is what? Admin server is a config server. It's a config server. What server? Config server. That's a config server. You can copy here and you can paste into the what here. There's a copycat. And this means what? Click on what? Next, and you can go for the dependencies. And what dependencies you need? Ah, తాగమ్మా తాగండి recursive order lagi, cursion relax. How many dependencies we need to add? Is three dependencies. One is web dependency, activator dependency, activator Spring Boot what? Activator dependency. Last one is what guys? That is the main dependency guys. You can go for the config server dependency. Go with the config server. Where is the config server? This is the config server dependency guys. Hey, total how many dependencies you have in total? Three. If you want DevTools, you can add the DevTools dependency also. This is Spring Boot what? DevTools. See guys, how many dependencies total you have? Four. One is the web, one is the server, one is the activator, one is the DevTools. The four dependencies in add, click on the finish. Once you click on the finish, to enable the Eureka server, what application we used? At the rate enable Eureka server. What means server enable? At the rate what? Enable. Enable admin server. Next one is what? Enable config server. Enable config server. Copy. This one is what? Copy. Enable config server. Where we need to write the config server? Main class. Main class. So this is what main class config server. This is the config server. This is what class? So main class. What's up guys? Enable config server. Config server. Config what? Config server. Hey, that is the config server guys. Config server is ready. Config server is what? Ready. Yes, config server is ready. Centralized configuration management. You can go with what? Config server. See guys, config server, what it will do? It will maintain the details and it will ask the GitHub. It is a mediator between what GitHub and huh? Then you are what? Clients. Config server is there, GitHub is there, right? GitHub should connect with what? Hey, GitHub should connect with what? You should connect with the config server should connect with what? Config server should connect with the you should connect with the config server should connect with what? Then config server should have the details about whom? GitHub details. Sir, no. Config server should connect with whom? GitHub. Okay, na? Okay. Config server connect with what? ఏమి దళితులు పడతాం రెండు రోజులు ఆఫ్లైన్ లో ఉంటే 2 రోజులు క్వశ్చన్ టాపిక్ ఇస్ వాట్ ఏదో చెప్పలే config server connect with the connect మరి See, config server. Hey, config server should connect with what? Config server should have the details about what? GitHub. Config server connecting with what? Client or GitHub? So config server should have the details about the client and details of the GitHub. Details about the GitHub. You are connecting with whom? So you should have the detail. Config server. Ante. Correct, correct. Config server connecting with what? The config server should have the details about what? Huh? Config server should have the details about the GitHub because config server is connected with what? GitHub. You are connecting with whom? Then you should have the details about what? You should have the details about the config server. Config server should have the details about the GitHub. Yes or no? That's what this in the config server is connecting with what? GitHub. That's what go for the config server. In config server application or property file you open. This is a config server application or property file, guys. In config server application or property file, you please add the any endpoints enabled. You can go for the endpoints enabled, guys. This is like endpoint enabled. We know that endpoints enabled and all the points here. So web explorer that what include that star means one endpoint, all endpoints are all endpoints. See guys, this is the config server. Config server is connected with what Git, right? That's why in the config server dot git dot what URL. This is the GitHub URL, guys. This is what URL, GitHub URL. See guys, this is the GitHub URL. Go to the GitHub URL. Repository name is what? Config repository like this. Go for the GitHub repository and just you can place the details. Click on enter, guys. In my project, I have the like 6 months back and 8 months back. Some files are there here. Fine, because maybe the old batch here. And this is like repository name. Sorry, this is the account name. But account name is here Ratan Ratan. But this is called what the repository name. What the repository name? Config repo. You can give any repository, no, not a problem. See guys, simply you directly add the 3 files. Add how many files? 3 files. See guys, how many files I added here? Just you can go for the how many files are there total here? 4 files. One is what? Dev property file is there. This is called applicational property file, guys. This is the default property file I can take. See, no profiles are setting. See, you set the dev profile, this is loaded. Prod profile, this is loaded. Test profile, this is loaded. If you didn't set any profiles, right? See, up to now, are you setting any profile? There is no profile concept, right? That's what applicational property file loading every time. Applicational property file will load, by default if you didn't set any profiles. You didn't set what? Any profiles. And you want profile, single property file. Single property file means no single property file is not good because environment specific property file is good, a single property file is good. Single property file is good, environment specific property file is good. Environment specific property file, right? Yes or no? At home, one property file required because very innocent, no involved any other activities. Yes or no? I also no activities at home, only profile also involved. Yes or no? One profile, environment specific profile. Hyderabad, another profile will start. One profile, another profile will start. Bangkok office outing, another profile will start. How many profiles total? Three profile. One is what? Home profile. Second one is what? Another profile. Third one is what? Bangkok profile. Are all one profile? No. One profile is good or not good? One profile is sleeping every time. What? Nothing. One profile is good or multiple environment specific required? Environment specific profiles and environment specific profiles are good. That's what guys. This is called dev environment profile, test environment profile, prod environment profile like that. If we didn't specify any environment profile, then what happened is here application dot property file. We got it up. See, this is something like application of property file, office environment phase. Office environment means any environments are there, no environments are. No environments. We need to work it, that's all. Yes or no? Office means what? Application of property file. No environment is setting by default what? Application of property file is loaded. But going to home, application of property file working, dev working, dev working. At Hyderabad, test working. At Bangkok, production working. What working? But application of property file what? Office. There is no profiles. There is no what you can say. There is no profiles are mentioned by default. You will take what profile? Application dot property file. Hey, see guys, you create the repository. You in the repository, you please go for the in the repository. You please add the in the repository guys. You need to add the this is like what properties file, dev property file. You please cross check once dev property file previously what data I added just here. Go for this is what Eureka details, and this is what H2 console details, and this is what expose like show health activated details. And this is what rabbit MQ details. These all the details are there in the what profile gets here dev profile. Next one is what gets here production profile. If for understanding purpose, maybe I added one property file like this is the environment for the development environment. Environment any is there. I think my custom property I added just generally. What property I added here? My custom property. Hey, you do one thing. You let me change this one like you please change like this is environment dot here you can click on what ADP. Where is the file guys here? This is what yeah good. Yes, click on this one, click on this one here. Click on this one here. You please click on the edit guys, you please add one property file. I'm going to add one small data here. What the data here? Environment spring dot environment dot what? Name. Is bring it on what? Environment now name. Why? Yes, please recording. Okay, fine. It's asking like you want me to make answer here. Sign in. Just let me go for the sign in. Go for the username. Then go for the password. Oh, nice. Yeah, we got the data again. This is a configuration repo. Config repo, you create the config repo. Already how many files are there here? 4 files are there. Environment specific file is there. By default property file is there. An application of dev property file guys, for your understanding purpose, let me add what. Previously, if you click on this edit button guys, this is edit symbol, but code is working, not working, not working because I didn't log in actually. Now if you click guys, now it is opening editing mode here. You please specify one just a property now. This is like spring dot dev dot env environment equal to what? Like I clearly written some what environment guys here? Development environment. A spring dot environment guys, so that we can understand that at least what property file is loading like. Yes, this is like dev property file and click on what button? Commit the changes. Once we commit the changes, click on the commit changes guys, and this is the committed changes here. This is called what? Spring dot environment. This is called what environment guys here? Prod. Edit this file. If edit this file, you please add one small data below. Go for like speaker dot. You please cross check once. This is for what prod. Prod environment. Environment specific file is good because one person should have one profile. Multiple changes. Multiple changes. That is like just you can write one more test environment here. And you please test environment. I didn't add any properties. Just okay, fine. This is test environment specific file. This is what profile gets you test profile. Commit the changes. Click on what commit changes and what. This is like environment. Application of property file, guys. This is like click on edit this file. When you click on edit this file, they tell me guys this is what default property file, right? Temper. This is what default, right? This is you can write the default. Okay, total how many property files I have told you? Four. What are the four? One is the application or property file. Next one is the their property file, right? Exactly. Okay, that's all. Just you can go for the config repo. This is my configuration repository. See guys, that's what in real when you push the project to the code, when you are push the see REST API one project you push it, React one project you push it, right? Every day morning before go to the interview, anytime, sometime when you go for the interview, go for what? Interview. Before going to interview, open the GitHub, just you can add A and delete the A character, click on update. Understood? ఏం చెప్పాను add A, delete A before going to what? Why? Hmm. I did add any project modifications here? No. No, just I add the ABCD, right? Then what happened guys here? Here the time was changed. When you sit in entry panel, if asking like GitHub link when you open, you can understand that okay, today morning you work for the project. Argument multiple then ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది ఇదేంట్లో understood? Portion కంటే he can understand because he is modifying one file multiple files multiple files. You know like how to do that. But remaining people guys, you please before going to the interview, please update the file so that you can showing like morning you updated 10 hours before you updated, so that you feel that okay, last what modifications you've done, what modifications you've done. And remember one more question. If I'm entry panel, I'll ask this kind of questions actually. I see like last 10 hours that you done the modifications or something like that, right? Sir, no, I feel that okay, 10 hours back you open the GitHub. Then immediately I'll ask the question like what modification you done 10 hours before? What modifications you done 10 hours before ఏ మోడిఫికేషన్ చేసాను అడుగుతాం అదేం చెప్తారు అవ్వకూడదు జస్ట్ యూ కెన్ టెల్ one of the future. See, cart implementation is orders maintenance is there. So just to say that I done last night order maintenance. I create the orders and how to create the orders and all. Maintain orders. ఏదో ఫీచర్ తీసుకొని చెప్పాను అల్లిపోవాలి. What do you can say? అల్లిపోవాలి మీరేనా కష్టం మీకు what అల్లిపోవాలా. Last night I worked for very hard and I updated cart orders. Even you purchase in my website, I done the very beautiful website which contains a lot of features. You can order any project, any product in my what you can say project. I will maintain your orders and you will get the mail and you get the WhatsApp and you get the OTP. I done this all operation. If you guys recruit me, I can work for your project. I build the REST APIs. I can work with what? React. Morning, sir. IOC is a container is a IOC responsible to create objects, sir. How, sir? Yeah, sir. 1 second, sir. IOC is a dependency injection, sir. Sir, IOC how objects dependent another object. object dependent, another object, object, sir. పొద్దున్న రాసినదే కదరా ఏం రాసిన వాట్ ఇస్ ద డిపెండెన్స్ ఇంజెక్షన్ ఇప్పుడు dependence injection is a how object define that objects. Check one page as well. Yeah, you remember that one line. You will go for the before entry. You please cross check whether modification of small project because when you unfortunately you open the GitHub, you see the 10 days before you work for the project means you will not accept. Will accept now? No, will not accept. We'll see like recent update. Okay, we done with 10 hours back. Okay, he's working on the GitHub 10 hours back. Okay, good. At least we have some positive opinion on the profiles. That's what guys. How many profiles are there? Like 3 profiles. 4 later, 3 later. No profiles are setting by default application of property file, but if you specify the profile, the corresponding profile executed. See guys, this is called GitHub URL. See that github.com, this is account name is what? Rathan, repository name is what? Config repo. Hey, you copy this URL guys, just you can place the URL here. Just I copied what? GitHub URL, right? What the URL tell me guys here? HTTPS github.com/account name and repository name. That's all. So config server is connecting with what? Hey, today now you focus on create the config server. Config server should read the data from the GitHub. And tomorrow morning you'll think about what? Your microservice will communicate with what? Config server. Config server communicate with what? GitHub to get the details. You get what? Details. First of all, you make the project. The project what? Config server project creates it. You create the config server project. You please cross check the config server is interacting with what? GitHub to get the details or not. If he is getting the details, tomorrow you get the details from where? Config server. GitHub. You get the details from where? GitHub. You get the details from where? Config server. GitHub. In the config server, config server. The config server is strong. Why config server means you tell like sir, my microservice can communicate with what the config server. I cannot communicate with what? GitHub. I can communicate with what? Config server. Config server communicate with what? GitHub, right? There is a project. Let's go. Hey, that's it. That's it. So config server can contain details about what? Hey, today's whole intention is what? Up to now configurations with you. But with you, good or not good? Place it where? You can get it from where? Generally, you can get it from GitHub, but you directly cannot work with what? GitHub. You connect with what? Config server. Config server connecting with what? So configuration contains config server contains what details? Your details or GitHub details or? Because config server is connecting with what? GitHub, right? That's it, guys. Well, that's all, guys. Project is done. Once the project is done, once what? Project is done. Once what? Project is done. But that's it, guys. This is a project. That is what I'm on project. Hey, just you create the config server and enable the one annotation like at the rate enable config server. And the config server is interacting with what? GitHub. Give the GitHub details. GitHub contains how many property files? So environment specific property file. Give the GitHub URI. That's all. Wait, give what the URI, guys? GitHub URI. That's all, guys. Go for the config server. In the config server, right click on what? Start. I am not testing entire project, guys. I'm testing only config server. I just click on what? Remind me later. Open this config server. Open what? Config server. A config server, you please give some port number. Tell me server dot. Tell me server dot what? Port of 7777 is already there. 8888. You give the 8888 is a port number. Right click on what and click on the start. Once you click on the start, then go up and guys say, oh, that is started. Once it is started, then what happened? That case, then server started. What started? Server started. Once the server started, this is a server URL, guys. My config server can connect with what? This is a config server. Config server can connect with what? Yeah. GitHub, right? Can get the details, guys. How to get the details means here simply can write the application slash and you need to give the environment specific property, guys. Yeah, this is called application slash dev. See, application slash dev means you are getting the dev environment property file. Yes, this is like application slash dev. Okay, www is what URL? Config server URL. Config server is connecting with what? GitHub. Getting what details? Application dot dev environment details, right? Exactly. Dehydration ఒక్క నిమిషం ఒప్పి పెడితే పోలకుండా మనోడు కూడా సేటి గారు కూడా తోలకుండా క్లోజ్ చేసేస్తాం. సో ఇది దట్స్ ఇట్. ఇది వచ్చిందా? ఇది రాలా. ఏది? క్లిక్ అండ్ రీఫ్రెష్ గైస్. Refresh. Yeah, enter the details, click on what it is, press enter. Now you got output. What the data is here? Application slash dev. Application slash dev. Hey, better rapid, but fact ఆవేశపడం automatic. See guys, this is the profile. Hey, you see this, so what profile is activated here? Profile is what? Dev profile. Hey, profile is what? Dev profile, right? See guys, this is version maintenance and here we given one property, your own property, right? What the property given? Spring.dot environment. Yeah, you see these details guys? Spring.dot environment is what? Dev environment. You are getting these details means what? What is success tell me? Config server connecting with what? Success. That's all. Config server connecting or not connecting? Config server is connecting with what? GitHub. Next one is what guys here? Prod. Enter the prod details guys. See, this profile is what? Prod profile. And here you can go for the Spring.dot environment is what? Production environment. That's all. Production environment details what out there. What details are loading guys? Production environment details are loaded. Go for the test environment guys. Click on enter. Once you click on the enter, then you can see the message that what profile is setting here. Test profile. What profile guys here? Test profile. See guys, your project up to now you didn't set any profile. But starting if you observe one line, your first line itself here is saying that no active profile is setting. No active profile is setting. Fall back to the one default profile that is called default profile. Default profile. Default profile is nothing but application or property file. Application of what file? Yeah, property file. See guys, this one is I will make the will make the test profile is done. You remove this all the test dev prod. You remove this all the data. Once if you remove this all the data, any environment is specified? No. No means click on enter button guys. Now application dot what? Application dot you directly can call the entire name guys. Application dot what? Properties. See guys, if we click on application dot property file, 1 second, let me check environment specific is done. You check this name once, applicate1 properties file. Any profile is dev profile means dev is coming, prod means what? Prod is coming. Next one is what? Application dot property file and application dot what? Application slash. Hey, this is what environment? Prod is coming, fine. Next environment is what? Text environment is coming, fine. Every environment is coming, fine. That is what? How many environments coming, guys? Three environments. Three environments coming. Three environments are what? Coming. That's it, guys. How many environments total? How many environments are? Three. What are the environments are? Level, test, prod. So the config server is connecting with what? Config server is connecting with what? That's config server is connecting with what? Config server is connecting with what? The config server and config client. Who is the config server? A Spring Boot application attacker is between what? It is a mediator between GitHub repository and what? Microservices. It reads the configuration file from what? It reads the configuration file from where? The serves them to client means who is the clients? Huh? What the config client here? Microservices. That fetch the configuration from what? You feel that write the words. That's all. Hey, config server data. How to maintain the configuration details in microservices? Charge ఉందా? That will not work. Wait, application or property file alternative is what? YAML file. Wait, what is the advantage of config server? Centralized configuration using what? Config server will maintain the centralized configuration using what? Using GitHub. And second one is the dynamic updates. Dynamic update means what? If any modifications, you can do modifications in where? Ma? అది కాదు. Dynamic updates in a sense, without refreshing. With refreshing, without refreshing. Without restart. Rebuild and redeploy. Hey, use a term like rebuild and redeploy. What's the meaning of rebuild and redeploy? Redeploy means is what? Undeployed, deployed. What's the rebuild? The term is important because you should have a clarity. Some people are saying, hey, build application, rebuild application, and redeploy application like that. Redeploy, rebuild in the sense you are creating the jar file, right? That is a build. We are building means creating the jar. Creating what? I told them once the project is completed, your project you have a target for a jar created, you run the jar, you close the Eclipse ID, SPS ID. I told like that, na? That's called building process. Build means what? They're saying like Maven build. Maven, they're doing Maven. You do the Maven build means you create the jar file first. Maven build. Deploy in the sense like you deploy the jar file into servers. And deploy the project into what? Deployment in the sense what? Deploy the project in the sense jar. First build chestam. What we are doing like build. Build means what? Creating the jar for the project. A jar create chestam. That jar we are deploying into what? Servers. That is called deployment. Rebuild in the sense what? Remove the old jar, create the new jar. Understood? Rebuild. They are saying build. Build means what? Rebuild. Build. Build means what? Creating the jar. Rebuild means what? Old jar, remove new jar. That is called building. Build and rebuild. Deploy, undeploy means deploy, redeploy means deploy means jar upload into server. Redeploy means what? Undeploy the old jar and deploy the new jar. That is called build and what? Mama? Build and what? Deploy. Build and deploy. Yes. Build and what? Deploy. Build and what? Deploy. What are the advantages of Spring Cloud Config Server? What are 3 points? One is centralized configuration. One is what? Dynamic updates. Dynamic update means what? Without reloading the, without rebuild and redeploy the project, we need to update the changes using activator slash what? Refresh. And third one is what? Easily we can manage what? Environment specific configurations. Like what environments? Dev, prod, test. Dev, prod, test using Spring profiles. Using what? Environment specific configuration means you are saying like those are profiles, guys. Those are what are profiles. Got it? That's all. Right, that point. Second question. What are the advantages of Spring Boot config server? Like in a last definition. When configuration value changes, service can reload the. When the configuration value changes, dynamic update means what? When you changes, then what happens, guys? The service can reload what? Updated properties at runtime. Using what? Activator slash. With activator slash refresh and put the automatic what? Without redeploying, you will get modifications. And easily manage what? Environment specific configurations. Those we are calling it as a profiles. Hey, what's the meaning of pre-production? Pre-production is production also like they will do pre-production first. What is pre-production? Pre-production means what? Hmm? Hey, you don't know what is pre-production, huh? Production, pre-production. Before sending to the before sending to clients, updating the product before sending to the client. I'll tell you one small scenario, you check it. Annual document ಕೊಡುದು. ನಾನೇ last morning. Generally in villages assume that we have some drama. We have some what? We are doing some drama, right? Huh? That is the last point. Drama, small drama, you will finish it. Hey, in villages you do some drama. Otherwise, even movie shooting also you can have some drama, right? Generally, we told how many environments total we have? 3 environments. One is the development, one is the test. First development, then test, then prod. I told the 3 right. But real time, see, generally for the students without confusion, generally we say 3. What are 3? Development to testing to production. But real time generally 4 environments are there. How many environments in real time? 4. Development, testing, and production is common. One more environment is the staging area is there. Staging environment. What environment is? Stage. You should know. If someone is saying only 3 environment means you can have a staging area also. Staging environment. We have a script, right? What is script will first? In a drama, we give the script to the actors. First, actor will prepare the script. His own. His own is preparing the script is nothing but what he is doing. What development job. Development is what you are doing your own work. Development job is done. While doing your development job, if you are doing any mistake, you can correct the mistakes because your own rehearsal alone you are doing rehearsal. If I am alone doing the rehearsal, guys, I am the actor. I am what? I am doing alone rehearsal. If I done any mistakes, I can rectify it. Finally, I am ready. With what? I am the actor. Rehearsal is I am doing with what? Rehearsal. Development, that is called development stage. Remember, like that is what? Development stage. Then immediately what? Director came. I am going for audition. Director came. I am doing in front of what? I am doing what? In front of director. In front of the director means what? Someone is watching, right? That environment is called testing environment. He is doing what? Tested. He is doing test means you should work properly. Your development not working properly, he said like get out. And again I need to go to home, again I need to practice, again come back, again director will say. Director means what? Tester. Hey, tester is a director simply. Because tester will test what? What code you written, what rehearsal you done, and how your delivery and all. That is called what? Tester. Testing environment is done. Once the testing environment is done, once what? Testing environment is done. In villages, when dramas are there, they will not directly will put the dias. They will not put what directly in dias. See guys, in auditoriums also what they will do before one day they will make the rehearsal. After they make the rehearsal is own development with the director testing. With and the auditorium with the properties. With what all properties. But any audience are there? No audience. That is called staging area. Before releasing into production, we are checking all integrated items working properly or not. All properties in the dias is what? Properly or not. We need to check, okay, how much dias with is there, how to make the properties and all. That is called pre-production. But pre-production are calling it as staging area. What area, guys? Staging area. Okay. Tomorrow auditorium we have the part dance program. Then before the night we need to check and using some file properties and some properties. All properties to align in the days properly. Sir, no. Stage is small, you are bringing 100 items is useless, right? A stage is big, you are using only one item is what? Again useless. That's what we need to what? Arrange the stage properly. Before going to the production, we need to integrate with all modules. You can work with what? Whether working properly or not. That is called what area guys here? Staging area. Before production, it means what? Rehearsal done. With the director rehearsal is done. Nothing but testing is done. Third one is what? Staging area. What is staging area? Include all the properties in all microservices of what? Communication working properly or not. Pre-production guys. Production before that what? Pre-production. Pre-production is not working successor, then what? Pre-production not only checking that now what you can say here. Not only stage, they are checking the light is coming properly or not, this light is blinking or not blinking, this all are what? They are testing everything. They test what? Everything. If everything is working, next day what? Real hero will come and real activity. Real people will come to the activity. But how many areas we have development? 4. One is the development. Development means your own regards you are doing. If any mistakes are there, you develop it. Development stage. Second is what? Testing means what? You are doing the acting before what? Director. Director is watching you. If you are doing any mistake while director watching, director said your test is failed, you go on to what? Rehearsal one more time. Once the director satisfied and testing is satisfied, go for what? Staging area. Staging area means what? Before the real data comes, we need to check all the properties are communicated properly or not. The last area is what area is here? Staging area. Staging area is what area? Production area. For how many areas? See, staging area is nothing but a pre-production phase. Staging area nothing but what area? Pre-production. Yes, sir. That are how many areas? What are the profiles in the Spring Boot? Staging in general we are not talking because the initial level you are the development, testing, production means you understand. Okay, production means like at least 9. Staging means what guys? This is something like pre-production. Before the production we are checking all set what properly or not. Then how many what are the different profiles in Spring Boot? How many profiles in Spring Boot? 4 profiles. What are the 4 profiles? Dev profiles, test profile, stage profile, product profile. See, you are saying that development profile, but the profile name is dev. Generally, you are calling it dev profile. Dev profile and second one is what? Tester. Third one is what? Stage. Fourth one is what? Product profile. Product. Yeah, staging is clear. What is staging before? Before production, which is nothing but what? Used for the pre-production. For what? Sorry, how many areas total? How many profiles? 4.